extra yarn. On a cold afternoon, in a cold little town, where everywhere you looked, there was either white of snow or the black from the soot of the chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for her dog, Mars, too. But there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. But it turned out he was. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog and for herself and Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet," shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone. Annabelle, that sweater is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," said Annabelle. "So they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." But it turned out she could, and she did. Even for Mr. Norman, and when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for her mom and her dad, and Mr. Pendleton and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louis. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat, and then Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she made sweaters for all the dogs and the cats and for other animals too. Soon people thought Annabelle was going to run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. And so Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn. And people came to visit from all around the world to see the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy a miraculous box of yarn, and I'm willing to offer you $1,000,000. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke twitched. $2,000,000, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10,000,000, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she did it. So one night, the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. Back to his castle, the archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair. Then he took out the box and lifted the lid, and he looked inside. There was nothing. His mustache quivered, it shivered, it trembled. The archduke hurled the box out of the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But it's all the way across the ocean. It turns out she was. And there, that's the end of the book.